Next up, we have one of my dear friends and a real investor in the future of talent and workforce here in Miami, Rick Beasley, who is the executive director of CareerSource South Florida and also the current chair of the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce. Let's give Rick a round of applause. Then we have John Paradisi, who is the executive vice president and CSO of City National Bank of Florida. John, welcome to the stage. And we have another John and fellow Canadian, John Wensveen, who is the Chief Innovation Officer at NSU. Welcome. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back up here on the stage after a couple of years of being away. So many great faces. I want to get right into it because we got 30 minutes to crack through what is a very important topic that we're just not going to be able to get through entirely, but this would be a great start to what we've got going on. So good afternoon again, everybody, and welcome to Emerge Americas. We live in an age of acceleration and an age of mega disruption, thanks to emerging technologies. It should come as no surprise to anyone that South Florida is shining in the national press, with Miami being the headliner, with a particular focus on Miami as the new tech hub. Recent headlines about Miami being open for business as a tech hub have infiltrated the paper press and social media, especially Twitter. The topic has captured the interest of entrepreneurs, industry, academia, government, investors, service providers, professional social networks, it just goes on and on. There's a new movement of excitement, but there's also debate, including some controversial viewpoints. Is it hype? Is it real? Is it somewhere in between? What is the definition of Miami? And are we really talking about Miami or South Florida as an ecosystem? Some have referred to Miami and South Florida as Silicon Valley of the East, spurring numerous controversial discussions. Is South Florida on the verge of a new movement around innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship? Are the big names relocating to Miami, and what impact are they having? What do recent trends mean to South Florida in terms of challenges, opportunities, and strategies? And one big question that we're going to focus on here today, do we have the tech talent? So there's a lot of buzz around innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship across the nation, resulting in emerging opportunities at an accelerated pace, and South Florida is absolutely no exception. So I'd like to jump right into the meat of today's topic, tech as an equalizer, and how that helped put Miami on the map. And I've just learned with my microphone that I really need to de-emphasize tech. Okay, so welcome panelists. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Maggie Hallbach, Senior Vice President of the Public Sector here at Verizon, Rick Beasley, Executive Director of CareerSource South Florida and now Chair of the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, and John Paradisi, Executive Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer at City National Bank. So I think a great starting point is to get each of your viewpoints on what's really happening in the terms of the state of Miami as it relates to technology. Is Miami and South Florida truly the hottest region in the nation at the moment? And what does this mean for the future of Greater Miami and South Florida? Innovation leads to new technologies and successful tech hubs. As part of the required infrastructure needed to be successful in South Florida, access to talent and funding are two key ingredients. Do you agree or disagree that there is an abundance of talent in South Florida, but a lack of qualified, credentialed talent to support emerging industries and occupations, particularly in technology? And Rick, I'd like to start with you. Loaded question.
Loaded question. Well, first off, John, it's good to see you. For those who may not know, John and I worked together when he was at Miami-Dade College. Well, actually, former board member, so glad to see him. But to answer the question, there's challenges and opportunity in terms of talent, tech talent. And I think we're on the cusp of how we really develop a supply chain or a talent supply chain for our community. For those who may not know CareerSource, we actually fund some initiatives several years ago. Our tech hire component, we operate about 4 tech hire centers here in Dade. Actually fund, we don't operate them, but we fund them in partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters, YWCA, and also the Opa-locka CDC. We're looking at how we launch it with Mexican American Council to focus, one, in terms of talent. Mexican American Council for those migrant workers, Big Brothers Big Sisters on youth. And if you understand Opa-locka is an area that had the highest crime, highest unemployment. but again, a digital divide. And so we funded those programs, and then we launched our boot camps. So our role in terms of how we build talent, again, I don't want to say that we have a deficit. I want to say that here's an opportunity for us to continue to grow in partnership with Miami-Dade College, Miami-Dade County Public Schools. But more importantly, we have a number of proprietary schools here. And again, John, Miami-Dade actually is a college town, but folks don't realize that. There's all the other glamour. So again, those are some of the things that there's a challenge, but also an opportunity to grow a talent pipeline here.
Yeah, for those that are not here from South Florida, it truly is a college town, college university town, a number of institutions collaborate and compete, but for good reasons all at the same time. But it's a great thing that's going on here in South Florida. John, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Thanks, John. So look, I think from a banking perspective, Miami couldn't be hotter, right? It's I moved down here myself from New York, surprise, surprise, about 18 months ago. I came down here not because of COVID, though. I came down because I thought there was a great opportunity in the market to really make a difference. And City National was in a trajectory that I thought was very exciting. But I'll tell you that since I joined, the amount of folks, reaching out to the bank, looking for a way to migrate into Florida has been really exponential. We're seeing individuals, bringing their skill set and their talent base to South Florida and leveraging all that technology that was built over the last few years to allow them to work remotely, work from home, really made it flexible for them to live anywhere.
Yep.
And when they did that, I think what happened was they thought perhaps in the beginning that it would be temporary. A lot of them said, hey, while there's this killer virus out there, I'll just go hang out on the beach for a few months and work there. And then they realized, hey, it's not so bad. Mm-hmm. So maybe while I pay less taxes and I'm sitting on the beach, maybe I'll bring in some of my own friends. And so we started getting calls from people where we started to see this migration and we looked at some data over a period of time. We saw some 900 people a day coming into the state of Florida, right? And about $1.1 million or so estimated in wealth transferring every hour of the day. So those are some pretty big numbers. And so what we thought about is how do we capture that talent coming in? How do we leverage that in our own ecosystem, in our own bank? Mm-hmm. But then at the same time is what can we do to ensure that they land the appropriate way? We've been around for 75 years in the community. We know the place really well. And so we created a bit of a program that allowed more of a concierge type service that really allowed them to migrate themselves and their talent and their people down here. And we assisted them along the way with everything you can think of when you're moving your family and your business. And being that commercial private bank focus, we were able to really deliver on that over the last year and a half.
That's tremendous. And there's a saying going around town, if you haven't heard it, I have to give credit to the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance, which is the economic development arm for Broward County. And what is it? Work in the cloud, live in the sun, and it's becoming more popular on a daily basis. So thank you for that. Maggie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so as a technology employer, we are always looking for talent. South Florida has a tremendous group of talented individuals, engineers, computer science. You mentioned the university communities that sit here. But we also recognize that talent development has to start at a younger age.
Yes.
And so our Verizon Innovative Learning Schools is a tremendous asset to Verizon, but also to Miami-Dade. We actually just opened our Broward County lab for Verizon Innovative Learning Schools. We have 20 Title I schools in the Miami-Dade area that are part of our Verizon Innovative Learning, and it's really targeting middle school students. And it comes with an entire STEM supported education curriculum, and it really ensures that we're getting to students at that really formative age where they're then seeing themselves in some of these technology careers that maybe they haven't historically envisioned themselves to be in. And so we have seen just a tremendous progression of students through this program. And we're really excited about the opportunity in South Florida.
So I like that you're touching the life cycle, because I think that's one of the things that's been missing, not just here locally, but nationally and internationally. And I got a very specific question to you about what Verizon's impact is here in our local community as it relates to that whole life cycle of talent and upskills, new skilling, reskilling, et cetera. So given the prior question that we were just discussing, I'd like to get each of your perspectives in terms of how the Global Technology Skills Challenge has impacted your organization specifically, and focuses on the need to develop local technology talent, and how your organization really plays a key role developing the training infrastructure that's needed to successfully focus on the workforce as it relates to new skills and upskilling and reskilling. So with that, I'd like to start with you, John.
That's a good question. So for years, the bank has had partnerships at the local level, whether you're looking at FIU or you're looking at University of Miami. And so talent is something that we've been fostering at that junior level for quite some time. I think during the pandemic, and let's just call it as it's been sort of slowing down a bit, we've been spending more time with these institutions looking at ways that that we can pick up talent and pick them up, on the early stages of their career, when, we can kind of teach them the, City National way of doing things, when we can still train them to execute in a certain way. And that's been successful. I think we look at, the talent in Florida historically has tried to migrate out of the state of Florida, right? You went to school here and then you said, hey, I'm gonna go for the big bright lights in New York, Chicago, LA. I think over the last 2 to 3 years, that's been slowing down, and that's what we're getting from a lot of our partners, is that a lot of students right now are looking at what's happening in the room and saying, I don't have to leave anymore, right? I can actually stay here right now and take advantage of being closer to home and thriving in the ecosystem that is being built by folks in this room and other folks in South Florida that really care about building that out. For us, it helps when you put the client and also your people on the center of attention, right? Those are one of four of our main pillars when we look at our strategy. 2 of them are, how do our clients feel about us, and how do our employees feel about us? Without those 2, we cannot grow, and we certainly can't do it in any profitable manner. So we've been winning awards for years around things like American Banker, best bank to work for. And that helps when you have a great culture to make sure that people stick around. But the competition for talent in this market is very fierce. And we've been doing things like enhancing benefits and things that are like to make sure that people continue to want to work here and foster in the company.
I'm glad that you brought that up, that you don't have to leave. You can be educated here, you can live, play. I'm on my 4th tour of Florida, and I'm never leaving, and this is the optimal time to be here, and it's just the future.
Not even in July or August?
I'm staying. The whole time? I'm staying. But all of you should stay too. So Maggie, you've touched on it a little bit, but from the Verizon perspective, I understand that your organization believes that training skill talent should really start at that middle school level, and maybe even before that, as it relates to STEM and digital literacy training. So can you give us a little bit more of an explanation of what that actually is? Yeah,
so we really approach things almost like a 3-legged stool. So you've got access to high quality and secure broadband. Absolutely crucial, whether you're a student, whether you're an employee. We talked about the cloud, being able to do your work effectively remotely. That holds for students, college students, and professionals like all of us. There's also then affordability. And so being able to ensure that you have high quality access, but also at a very reasonable price that you can afford. And then the final is digital literacy, and making sure that it's not just students that are learning how to safely use this technology or effectively use this technology, or to reimagine the way that they can do things with technology. It also then conveys to families, particularly first-generation families who might not be digitally native, right? A lot of these students are growing up with this thing in their hand, and it is just like an extension of their body, right? Exactly. But for generations that came before us, it's not natural. And so when you're looking for employment services, when you're looking for job training, when you're looking for any kind of government assistance, or even just licenses to go fish, being able to know how to secure that securely over a application or a device is really, really important. And so we really consider those 3 aspects of all of our programming So whether it's digital inclusion, our distance learning program, or our Verizon Innovative Learning Schools, it really comes together to make sure that we have access across the entire family unit to make sure everyone's included in that.
So what I like what you're talking about is, without even saying the words, is that you're really talking about strategic co-invested relationships. It's not just industry, it's not just academia. You're coming together to close the gap to really address some of these trends that we really have to focus on. So Rick, having partnered with CareerSource South Florida in the past, and you mentioned earlier I had an opportunity to be on your board, which was a true pleasure for me. I know that your organization is extremely proactive in working with the workforce, especially for the new skilling, the upskilling, and the reskilling. But can you give our audience a better overview of what exactly CareerSource is doing to help with this workforce as it relates to technology opportunities?
You know, when we talk about tech, and I love the title of this panel, the Equalizer. And so for those in the community who may not know CareerSource, we are a workforce investment board. We receive our funding, we make investments in our community. So last year we invested well over $55 million in our community to help build talent. But when we talk about tech, tech for us, we originally started almost, I want to say about 10 years ago, even probably longer than that, when we looked at the digital divide of ensuring equality across the spectrum. And when we say equality across the spectrum, I'm talking about every community within Miami-Dade County, because it's about talent. And so we launched what we call a digital divide initiative that we took welfare moms and invested in providing them digital access for a year. And we made it sure for the family because we wanted to ensure that the youth in that family had access to technology, to the internet, so they can do their research and enhance their ability to compete. The other piece, as I mentioned, we had our tech hire centers that we've launched. And we did it specifically, our first one was with Big Brothers Big Sisters to, again, enhance youth opportunity to have access to digital skills. And the next one was with the Opelika CDC. But the one I've been just, I guess, so proud of is with YWCA. Mm-hmm. I hope Carrie Ann Rose is here, the CEO of the YWCA. But the initiative there was to focus on increasing women in the IT area. And so because of that, we launched Women in Tech. And so I think we're on our third or fourth cohort of increasing and training and then making an investment to increase the women in the area of technology. And so again, our investment is to ensure that we grow talent. But also the one I would have to say is our tech hire boot camps. So for every summer, in partnership with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and now we've increased it to our out-of-school youth, that we have about 300 to 400 kids who take courses and get certifications either in gaming, and my staff's gonna kill me if I don't get this right, gaming, cybersecurity, web development, network. I'm looking on the sides so give me an idea. I hope I got it all right. I hope I got them all. So, but it is about looking at 300 or 400 kids and to go to an intensive summer employment piece to get trained. And through Miami-Dade College, Miami-Dade County Public Schools, New Horizons, the Academy, a number of training partners that we have. And so you see the youth, and when they finish, we give them up to $500. They got to, when they finish, $300, and if they pass the certification, additional $200. Then we give them an internship, so they can put what they've learned to work. And so we've been doing that for the last 7 years. For us, it's about how we build talent for every aspect of the community. Because again, for us, it's how do we increase the number of companies who look at Miami-Dade County and decide, I want to do business here. And if we don't have the talent, those companies will leave and go somewhere else. And that's what we do as a workforce board. And I always get excited about when you see these kids and how they really have just taken off, so.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point too. It's fairly easy to recruit people within Florida and to Florida, but the retainment challenge has been a continuous challenge. So I think we need to do a much better job of making sure that it's not just the job that somebody has, but it's all of the infrastructure that makes somebody happy, from housing and affordability to transportation. And I know these are all challenges that we're dealing with here in South Florida. What I'd like to do for just a moment, and not to ask one of you specifically, I'd like to make it more of an open floor question to any of you that would like to respond. I'd like to ask you, like, if all the things that you're doing to support workforce as it evolves, is there one pilot program or one major initiative that you've taken on that you can say is a really great success for your organization, whether it have big impact or small impact that may open up doors of opportunity for the future? And maybe Maggie, start with you. I mean, I said I wasn't going to ask, but I see you maybe chomping at the bit. You might want to say something, so go for it.
Yeah, you know, I have to say, like a lot of people, including teachers, my sister, Montgomery County, Maryland school teacher, saw the COVID pandemic as a challenge, and I totally acknowledge that. But I am also really pleased with the silver lining around having accessibility to distance learning and really bridging the homework gap. So it used to be, prior to pandemic, that there was this expectation that the only time that you needed technology with these students was when they were in the classroom. And what we know about today's generation of primary school, high school students is they are surrounded by technology and they love it. And we should be doing more to embrace that hunger, that interest. And so one of the things that we see from some of our more progressive school districts is maintaining this type of technology focus. And these one-to-one programs are really being embraced in a more meaningful way with programming. But the other piece is ensuring that our teachers are receive the professional development to actually then be able to teach their pedagogy in this kind of distance learning environment and keep that engagement with students. It's amazing the difference between school districts that had one-to-one programs prior to pandemic and their results during pandemic versus those schools that were attempting to deploy one-to-one technology programs during the crisis. And what we are continuing to double down on is making sure that those school districts are maintaining that technology in the hands of students in a really intuitive way for teachers, parents, and students. That, to me, is going to be the difference between what was a crisis versus the silver lining that then becomes the actual feeder pool for the talent that companies like Verizon are going to be hiring or already are hiring.
So John, I would say, you know, again, as an equalizer, for us, there's two probably major projects that I'm just excited about. The one I mentioned earlier are Women in Tech. Women in Tech, and again, is about increasing the number of women in the area of IT. But I will share with you the impact. So our last graduation, we had a cohort of about 15. And as we recognized them and celebrated them on their success, I had their children come up and sit with them as a part of the graduation because it's important. So after the graduation, one of the children of the parents came up, actually it was two, and said, you know, Mr. Beasley, I hope to see you at my graduation because I want to get into IT as well. Now that's the impact, because it's not just a parent, it is also a child. And so having digital access becomes important to our community, being able to expose our community to all the jobs that are available, but also then the training. And the next one that I'm excited about, in partnership with the National Association of Workforce Boards and with the mayor's office, and a big one with Google. We've been working with them, and David Gilbert, one of my program managers, has been leading the initiative there. It's called Go with Google. Again, providing training online to help adults reposition, reskill, retool themselves of other jobs that could potentially be available for them. I'm excited about it because when we launched it, we thought we were just going to get maybe a couple hundred folks in. We have well over 500 individuals who have enrolled in Go with Google. And so they're trying to give us more scholarships. So that's important as to how we invest in our community to help build the talent, not for just the jobs today, but for the jobs for the future.
Yep. Good stuff. John?
So John, we a couple of things. One, we partnered with Emerge, right before we kicked off, earlier this year, in doing something called Startup Studio. So we worked with them to basically foster entrepreneurship, right, minority-owned companies, and where we basically did it a Shark Tank type style, where everybody pitched their business, and we provided grants for these folks, and we provided them a platform, more importantly, to be able to showcase their ideas and try to foster more innovation. From a inside the company, I would say that we're in the process right now of launching a new program to help small businesses. So, and we're doing it with partnerships. It's one of those things where you look at it and you say, we could build it ourselves, but why do that? And so we really push ourselves to think about what are the partners, what ecosystems can we leverage and build to help bring solutions, technology leverage solutions to the market in an efficient manner, both for us and for the customer.
Yep.
And so we're launching an SBA 7A product, which is typically a fairly painful process to go through if you're going through that because it's government backed. But we're working with a third party to help us enable that in a digitized manner where we can close transactions in a number of days. So that's something that is really, I think, going to change how people approach lending for small business for the better.
Yep.
So we're really excited about that because I think we have a community and a pool of community that's really looking for it. During the pandemic, we did, I think it was 10, 11,000 PPP loans in the market. We did them quickly. We did them for our clients. But we also did them more broadly for the rest of the community that need them. We didn't just say, hey, we'll just do it for our book of business and try to protect our balance sheet. We did it for them because they were a client, but we also did it for anyone else who needed it. Because of that, we expanded our customer base, and it was the right thing to do. And we also, obviously, were able to create a bit of a more of a following. And now we're saying, how can we help those customers thrive further in their next chapter?
Right.
And when it comes to talent on the tech side, we can't get enough of it, right? So developers, Salesforce developers, they're hard to come by.
Right.
They're hard to keep because everybody wants them. And so I think when you're faced with that kind of challenge in the market, what you have to do is create programs internally that show a career path for these people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you can't show the young talent, the technology talent, a career path on how they're going to go from individual contributor to a team builder, right? If you can't show them that over time, they get quite impatient. And so that patience that people used to show years ago is not so much there right now. And so as managers, as leaders, we really have to push ourselves to create that type of environment.
So what I like about what all of you are saying is that you're breaking down and removing the barriers of entry, and which is great for entrepreneurs of all sizes. I don't know if the audience knows, but South Florida is #1 in the nation in terms of the number of startup companies that are being created here. But we've typically fallen in the 38 out of 40 level, depending on the classification, meaning that most businesses don't have the ability to scale beyond 20 employees. And we're improving those statistics all the time, which is great. So what you're doing and the platform and being able to communicate and create awareness is magnificent. So how do we do it for the other 364 days of the year? So what I'd like to do right now, because we got about 3 minutes left, I'd like to enter what I call the lightning round. And the lightning round is your opportunity, because I've been a panelist, and one of the most frustrating things about being a panelist is you never get to actually say what you really want to say, because the moderator is kind of dictating the dance. So in 30 seconds or less, each of you, if we have the same conversation in 5 years, is it going to be different, or is it going to be the same as today? And John, we'll just go down the line and let you take it.
Sure. Okay, I think we touched on this. Miami's hot. 3 years ago, if you look at the crowd in here, look at the crowd that was in the opening speech that Felicia did, and and the bigger crowds around Serena. The crowd's probably 3x what it was 3 years ago. So the movement of people down here, the movement from the government, really supporting the initiative of building a tech environment is all there. I think Miami is just leveraging the ecosystem it's the right place at the right time to really make sure that this community can thrive.
Absolutely.
So I think in 5 years, I think we'll be sitting here and saying, this will be opened up and this stage will have to be bigger because there'll be that much more demand for it.
Right, they're adding a second floor of the convention center.
Or the second floor.
All right, there you go. Rick?
30 seconds. This community will look totally different than what you see it today. I moved here 17 years ago. It's totally different now. But in terms of technology, if we can work together, Emerge America's much smaller venue. We were one of the sponsors here at the very beginning, and to see it now, I'm so excited. But when you're working with partners like Miami-Dade College, Miami-Dade Public Schools, the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, and others, of addressing technology, addressing the talent needs, and you're seeing folks make the investment, Verizon, Comcast, and others, it really is going to shape the dynamics of this community. And particularly if we start to commercialize the patents at University of Miami, FIU, and others, and you'll see the change in terms of innovation, entrepreneurship, and technology in this community.
Awesome. So I got 1 minute and 5 seconds. Maggie, you get the final word.
So I'll just say, like, imagine what your world was like 5 years ago. So just put that exponentially,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
The number of autonomous things, the amount of sensors that are in your home, in your office, in a space like this, in your school. Everything will be connected to everything. Imagine the amount of data that will move, the AI that will be enabled by that. That is really, really exciting. And South Florida, specifically Miami, will be at the epicenter of that.
Right.
And I thank you for that. So in my 30 seconds, I'm going to accelerate and just say that this truly, the region is on fire. Miami, Greater Miami, South Florida, it is the place to be. I want to thank our panelists because you're all trailblazers with your organizations and what you're doing and having impact. There's never been a more opportune time. South Florida, sunshine, beaches, cruise ships, we're always going to be known for it, but now it's about technology. And I want to thank our panel, and I really want to thank our audience because it's you, the ecosystem, that's making this work. And the future just could not be more bright. And bang, we are on 0-0 right to the second. So thank you all, and have a wonderful time at eMERGE on day 2. And thank you everybody again.